Hey, my name is Brennan, and this is your year ahead horoscope for Virgo for the entire year of 2024. All right, let's jump into it first. I wanted to say the main themes that you're going to encounter this year, which are finances, relationships, beliefs, career, friends, enemies, and health. So those are some of the main themes that you're going to encounter this year, and I'm going to spend the rest of this video expanding on what transits are associated with the activation of those themes in your life and what the time frames are and everything like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so the first transit that I wanted to highlight that you're having this year is a continuation of the eclipses that are happening in your second house of finances and your eighth house of shared resources. So these eclipses started last year, and my keyword for eclipses is major beginnings and major endings. So for you, this is major beginnings and major endings when it comes to finances and shared resources. So for some people, this indicates fluctuations in finances. For others, it represents maybe you've gone as far as you can with a certain manner of making money, and you come to the end of that. So it's the end of one chapter, but then the end of one chapter opens up a new chapter so that there are new opportunities for growth and financial success during the course of the year. Part of this, though, is taking place in the context of your eighth house, which represents other people's money and shared resources. So sometimes this indicates the resources of a partner, if you're married or have a relationship partner, that there's something about your partner's resources that are suddenly affecting yours and some changes in that area. In other instances, the eighth house can represent things like debt, inheritance. It can represent taxes and other things like that. So pay attention to these areas of your life, because this seems to be getting a lot of activity this year of major beginnings and major endings when it comes to financial matters. So that's the first transit I wanted to highlight. The next transit I wanted to highlight is talking about these transits through your seventh house of relationships that are happening this year, especially initially the Saturn transit through Pisces and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's going to take place around June, July timeframe. So my primary keyword for this is nebulous challenges regarding relationships, where Saturn going into your seventh house usually represents a period of surmountable difficulties for relationships, where sometimes some relationships cool off or others can sometimes come to an end, where you can find that you run into some obstacles or some difficulties, and you may decide at this time that there's some relationships that have kind of reached the end of their lifespan and you don't want to proceed further. On the other hand, sometimes these are surmountable difficulties where something comes up, but you decide to work through it. And if you put in a lot of effort and a lot of dedication to overcome those obstacles, then you can emerge from this period with a much stronger relationship than you had going into it. The only issue here, though, is because Saturn is going to be conjoining Neptune, Neptune is kind of nebulous, and it makes it harder to grasp exactly what the issues are and where they're coming from. And there's this inherent tension between Neptune, which represents illusions and idealism, versus Saturn, which represents like the cold, hard reality. And there's going to be some sort of tension for you this year between sort of idealism versus realism when it comes to your relationships. So this is going to be heightened even more so around the September timeframe, because there's going to be an eclipse in Pisces, which is going to indicate a period of major endings and major beginnings for relationships. So some people start new major relationships during those times, or other people end relationships at those times, or at least end a major chapter of a current relationship at the very least. So that's going to be one of your main areas of activity this year, is relationships. Moving on to some of the more positive things, I wanted to talk about some of the Jupiter transits that you're having this year. In the first half of the year, you've got Jupiter going through your ninth house of travel, religion, education, beliefs, and interaction with foreign cultures and foreign places. And especially in May, Jupiter is going to conjoin Uranus, which presents the potential for unexpected opportunities with respect to this area of your life. Whether it's beliefs, whether it's travel, whether it's education, there's some sort of opportunity that comes here that's sort of sudden and somewhat unexpected, especially around the May timeframe. So for many of you, because the ninth house represents beliefs and education, it may represent starting to learn something new about the world and starting to expand your horizons in some way that's new and unexpected for you. In other instances, it may present the opportunity to go on a trip or to take a trip or travel to a foreign country in a way that's new and exciting for you in order to see a place that you haven't seen before. That's kind of the energy of this transit, especially in the first half of the year, but culminating in particular around the May timeframe. So that's the first positive transit. The other really positive transit for you this year is Jupiter in June is going to move into Gemini, which is your 10th house of career and overall life direction. So this represents a period of growth with respect to your career and life direction where if you're already in a current line of work, you could get a promotion or you could see some sort of advancement in your current career field. The 10th house also represents reputation, so it can be a very good period for your reputation in general and hitting a new height in terms of that. I would take advantage of this transit to look for different opportunities for growth in your chosen career field, because the second half of this year in particular, especially in June, is going to be just full of possibilities and full of potentials for growth. And it would be good if you had your eyes open and you took advantage of any of those opportunities when they presented themselves to you. All right, so that is the Jupiter transit. I wanted to move on and talk about the Mars retrograde that's going to take place later in the year. So this Mars retrograde is going to be taking place in Leo and Cancer, which is your 12th and 11th houses. So Mars transits can be kind of tense. They can bring hidden tensions to the forefront in our life. And for you, this is taking place in the 11th house of friends and the 12th house of enemies. So it's maybe tying together these two topics in your life where it could bring some hidden tensions to the forefront with respect to your friendships. And there may be some friends in your life who become enemies or become people that you don't get along with for a period of time. Or alternatively, there may be some enemies that you clash with that suddenly become friends. So since this is a retrograde period, some of the energy of this period can sometimes involve bringing things from the past into the present. In this instance, it would be bringing some tensions from the past and resurfacing some of those tensions in the present, whether those are tensions with friends or tensions with enemies or people that you don't get along with very well. That's kind of the energy of this transit during the last 2 or 3 months of the year. So as long as you deal with that energy and you sort of exercise restraint and caution, it shouldn't necessarily be too bad, but just try to avoid getting into any conflicts or fights that are unnecessary or that you don't need to get into, or at least make sure that if you initiate a conflict that you're okay if it becomes a bigger conflict than you might think at first. Because that's one of the things about Mars retrogrades is sometimes we can start a little fight thinking that it'll just come and go over the course of a day or two, but then for reasons outside of our control, it can become much larger than we expected at first. So just be careful getting into any major conflicts at this time unless you really are prepared to deal with something that could be a little bit more drawn out than you're anticipating. All right, so that's the Mars transit. The last transit I wanted to mention is Pluto is going to go into Aquarius, which is your 6th house of work and health. So this can indicate a period of transformative experiences when it comes to either your workplace and what you do for work, or it can be a period of transformation with respect to your health and your body. So sometimes this can be a little bit challenging. There can be challenging issues that that come up and force us to dig deep and to research things very deeply in order to come up with solutions for these issues. So if this is happening with respect to health, There may be some things where you have to really dig in deep and research things deeply in order to figure out a solution to some long-standing issues that you've had in the past that now suddenly require more long-term attention and resolution of some sort. If this is happening in the workplace, sometimes there can be issues with issues of power control, manipulation, and other issues, especially if you find yourself in a management position. If you have people that are working underneath you as subordinates, there can be issues with control and intrigue and manipulation when it comes to those people. So just be very careful if you enter into any situations like that, because sometimes it can be somewhat problematic. But as long as you're aware of that and you exercise caution, it shouldn't lead to any major issues that shouldn't be like outside of something that you can handle. All right, so those are the major transits that I wanted to mention this year, and that's the reason why the main keywords this year are finances, relationships, beliefs, career, friends, enemies, and health. So I think that's it for this forecast for this year. Here are the main transits that I talked about for those watching the video version, and here are some of the key dates for some of those transits, just to give you an idea and a reminder of the time frames. But other than that, I think that's it for this forecast for 2024. So if you'd like a more detailed breakdown of the transits for next year, check out my 2024 year ahead astrology forecast on YouTube. And if you're looking for good dates to do things next year, I recently released my 2024 Electional astrology report, where I went through and I've outlined all of the most fortunate dates for starting different ventures and for doing things during the course of the next 12 months. So I'm running a 15% off New Year's sale on that right now, and you can find out more information at theastrologypodcast.com/2024 report. All right, that's it for this forecast. Good luck next year. Good luck this year, and I'll see you next year for the horoscope for 2025. So good luck and take care. If you appreciate the work I'm doing here on the podcast and you'd like to find a way to support it, then consider becoming a patron through my page on patreon.com. In exchange, you'll get access to some great subscriber benefits. You can find out more information at patreon.com/astrologypodcast. Shout out to our sponsor for this episode, which is the Chani app, the #1 astrology app for self-discovery, mindfulness, and healing. You can download it on the Apple App Store or on Google Play, or for more information, visit app.chani.com. Special thanks to all the patrons that helped to support the production of this episode of the podcast through our page on patreon.com. In particular, shout out to the patrons on our producers tier, including patrons Christy Moe, Ariana Amour, Mandy Ray, Angelique Nambo, Issa Sabah, Jake Otero, Jeannie Marie Kaplan, and Melissa Delano. If you're looking for a reliable astrologer to get an astrological consultation with, then we have a new list of astrologers on the podcast website that we recommend for readings. Find out more information at theastrologypodcast.com/consultations. The astrology software that we use and recommend here on the podcast is called SolarFire for Windows, which is available for the PC at alabe.com. Use the promo code AP15 to get a 15% discount. For Mac users, we recommend a software program called AstroGold for Mac OS. You can find out more information at astrogold.io, and you can use the promo code AstroPodcast15 to get a 15% discount. If you're really looking to expand your studies of astrology, then I would recommend my Hellenistic Astrology course, which is an online course on ancient astrology, where I take people through basic concepts up through intermediate and advanced techniques for reading birth charts. You can find out more information at courses.theastrologyschool.com. And finally, thanks to our sponsors, including the Mountain Astrologer magazine, which is a quarterly astrology magazine, which you can read in print or online at mountainastrologer.com. And the Northwest Astrological Conference, which is happening both in person and online, May 23rd through the 27th, 2024. You can find out more information at norwac.net.